Hey everybody, we are live and welcome to another great Althea community call. No matter how you are joining us on YouTube, Twitter, or LinkedIn, thank you for being here today. And we are going to unveil yet another amazing product from the development team at Hawk Networks and Chandra Station, who've been working very diligently to bring the Althea L1 to a production stage. So we can use things like liquid infrastructure to build projects and really grow and scale the Althea protocol, which we've been working on for many years. And of course, many people use this for their home internet. I am joining y'all. My name is Deborah. I'm the CEO of Hawk Networks and one of the incubators of the Althea protocol and now Althea L1 blockchain. And we're joining you here today from San Diego, where Hawk Networks has partnered with Globalstar to build technology and utilize the band 53 spectrum. Truly exciting. It revolutionizes how we build telecom networks. And if you're interested in that, we did another live call last week, really kind of deep diving into use cases and why this is a pivotal moment. Go ahead, take a look at that, or join us in our Discord or Twitter, ask questions. We'd be happy to answer those for you. And without further ado, I'm going to turn the mic over to Shalabi and Justin to share a little bit about themselves and what they're going to share with us today.
Hey guys, my name's Chalabi. I am a validator at Chandra Station and a developer working on the Althea iFi DEX and the web app and other aspects of the chain.
Hey, I'm Justin, CTO and co-founder of Hawk Networks, and I've done a lot of design work for Althea, the Althea protocol, Althea L1, Gravity Bridge, and now for the iFi DEX, which I'm excited to talk to you all about today.
Cool. Well, let's start with maybe a bit of the definitions, right? So what is iFi? Maybe Justin, if you could talk us through what is iFi DEX and why is it important to the Althea stack for utilities and infrastructure?
Yeah, so iFi is iFi or infrastructure finance is what we see as the evolution of DeFi. When you begin to combine RWAs with DeFi in a more native way. So instead of bringing like an existing real world asset on chain, you bring that revenue stream on chain. This is something the Althea protocol really makes for a great example of, because people are buying internet, their home Wi-Fi router is a smart wallet, they're paying for internet 30-cent microtransaction at a time. And this is a real on-chain revenue stream. So it's very different from an RWA that's like something held by a company and that they occasionally maybe distribute revenue on chain by moving it across themselves. This is an RWA which is chain native revenue generating, which allows you to start applying a lot of DeFi principles in very innovative and cool ways to that programmable revenue stream on chain. And this is where you get liquid infrastructure, which I'm sure you can go ahead and watch a few other presentations about. I think I've done several that are available now. And then now today we're talking about the iFi DEX. So this is the canonical DEX of Althea L1, and it has a few objectives. It needs to be efficient, it needs to be sort of easy to use, and it needs to be good for programmable. So like for programmable applications, because Althea L1 iFi is a platform for machine-to-machine payments, because lots of machine-to-machine payments is what brings these iFi RWAs, these next generation RWAs, and brings their payments and revenue stream on chain. So with all of those different objectives in mind for the iFi DEX, we sat down and we really looked at the available options as far as different sort of Solidity code bases. So Althea L1 has a layer for microtransactions and then a layer for EVM or programmable transactions. And the iFi DEX is going to live in the EVM. And after a lot of work and investigative work, we decided to go with a ambient DEX base for the iFi DEX code. But what we've done with ambient is really cool, and I think as cool as the original developments with for ambient. So first of all, I want to give full credit to the upstream developers. We love contributing to open source, and we always want to try and make things better and sort of contribute to the community as well. So in this case, we're going to be talking a little bit about both features that were written by the upstream ambient team and also features written by us to expand upon them. And what we have added to ambient is that when it was originally written, the Solidity smart contract size limit is 24 kilobytes. And the original ambient team built an enormous amount of features into this 24 kilobyte footprint to the point where they had no space left. They were about 23.85 kilobytes full out of their 24 kilobyte limit. And there was no room for things like events or a liquidity reward system or anything like that to fit inside the contract. And the reason they had pushed it so close to the limit is because they had implemented a concept which we're calling liquidity fusion for the for ambient and also the iFi DEX. And that is where a single pool can have Uniswap v2 style liquidity, which is called ambient liquidity, and then Uniswap v3 style concentrated liquidity, and also a third concept that doesn't exist in other DEXs called knockout liquidity, which is sort of like a limit order, except it's implemented as liquidity. So limit orders on Uniswap are really just transactions that you sign that execute at a later time, and they still impact the price of the pool. Whereas knockout liquidity is where you come along and you actually provide liquidity to perform your swap. So you lock up token A, the price moves until your concentrated liquidity position goes from all token A to token B. And then that in knockout liquidity, that is automatically removed from the pool swap capability so that you can withdraw your effectively completed limit order. So this opens up a lot of possibilities in that ambient DEX pools sort of act like you are swapping over a DEX aggregator across 3 different types of pools and combining that liquidity in one place. And that is how trying to implement all of this in one tiny little Solidity maximum contract size is what led to them not being able to implement some other features, like, for example, the reward system that we've implemented for the iFi DEX, but also they were unable to add events. So events are how you sort of interpret what a contract is doing on Solidity in the first place. And what we found, so this is where the story kind of gets a little bit fun. And I'll take a minute to stop for questions and not sort of steamroll everyone with exposition here.
I don't think we have any questions yet. We have some very excited folks. Daniel Pittman shares, what limit orders as liquidity? So yeah, I think this, I mean, in terms of impact, right, this is really huge. And maybe also, I think I'm curious about, this particular efficiency of liquidity. How does that interact with the utility use cases, right? Like, why is this important for Althea or for infrastructure and utilities in general? And then Ibrahim also asks a couple questions here too, Justin, which I'll share. He says, how does the integration of the iFi DEX with Althea network enhance decentralized trading and cross-chain interoperability? So it's a little bit of a, extension of my question here. And then what specific benefits does this collaboration bring to users in terms of transaction speed, cost efficiency, and network scalability? And I think I would just color that with for Althea users, these are operators operating, telecom, utilities, infrastructure, capital, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so to answer those questions roughly in the order they were delivered. So like, what effect does this have on swaps? So in general, it results in your swaps being cheaper and more efficient, and everybody getting a better price because you are effectively swapping across a big network. So to get the equivalent feature set without using the ambient sort of liquidity fusion concept, you would need a DEX aggregator, take for example a Slingshot, and then two different types of pools at least, and then you still wouldn't have knockout liquidity. So what the iFi DEX does is that it provides all this functionality with one simple pool. So it's conceptually very simple to interact with. You get the advantages of a DEX aggregator, you get the advantages of having multiple types of liquidity, but you get the simplicity of having an ecosystem where there's one pool, which helps bring that liquidity all in one place, which creates sort of a virtuous cycle of more and more efficient swaps. Now, in addition to that, the let's see, which one do I want to tackle next? So how does this help platform users? And so the thing that we, a really essential feature for us is that this is a machine accessible interface. So, and this particular feature is like 3 blog posts ahead. I've got the next 3 written and ready to go. But in addition to
quick plug, you mentioned the blog post. If y'all haven't seen it, blog.althea.net or on our Medium for Althea Mesh, that's gonna have this latest blog post too. So if you want to kind of deep dive into the mechanics of that, jump over there and read up. And then there's going to be some subsequent ones as well too. So sorry to interrupt, Justin. I just wanted to let folks know there's more meat there that they can dig into.
Yeah. So the iFi DEX has Ambient DEX, the upstream version, has support for gasless transactions. And of course, gasless transactions don't mean that nobody is paying for the gas. It means that you do your swap, you pay for the gas in USDC, and a relayer pays the underlying Althea gas fee to submit it to the EVM. And this is super important because if we want machines to be able to onboard, people are depositing USDC or some other stable to their smart router balance or their vending machine or smart car charger, all of these things that would be iFi applications. And those swaps need to be able to be executed without having to worry about, oh, you've got to go put some Althea dust on it, because who wants to hear, oh, hey, your vending machine doesn't work because you didn't give it some Althea dust to pay for the swaps. I mean, that's not acceptable. So what we have done for the iFi DEX is that we have built a full relaying ecosystem. So rather than just having a single application where people submit gasless transactions to then be submitted by a relayer, we are building a full infrastructure where any application on Althea L1 can look at an on-chain list of transaction holding endpoints, and anyone can freely send a gas-free transaction to these holding endpoints, which then serve those transactions back up to a network of relayers. And the reason for this is that way we can keep a list of the holding endpoints on the chain, and the relayers can move in and out however often they want. There can be thousands of them. They can change out overnight, all of that. And what this allows for is that all these machines doing machine-to-machine payments can access all of the DeFi and iFi features in the EVM without having to deal with EVM, without having to worry about EVM fees. Everything is designed to be workable without necessarily needing Althea for gas when you onboard to the chain. And what makes this so important is that the way a lot of chains have this is like, oh, you've got to have a gas account. Oh, there's a faucet that gives you a little dust for a swap. Oh, this particular application gives you a little dust. None of these provide anywhere near the stability and the ease of use and the reliability that you need for a platform that is designed for many millions, hopefully tens of millions of machines to show up and start transacting between each other without anybody having to pay attention to them. Just like, oh, you've got to get dust. Oh, you've got to worry about gas. It doesn't even work very well when it's one person, like mousing around with MetaMask trying to figure out what's up. It certainly is not going to work well when it's a bunch of smart appliances that you have to keep track of individually. It's just, doesn't scale. You can't do it. And that's why the gasless transaction ecosystem that we've built for the iFi DEX, on top of the existing gasless transaction features for ambient DEX, is really important because we've paid attention end to end on every step that you need to be able to do so that machines can go have this interface, have a publicly available version of it, and say, okay, application developers, iFi application developers can be like, okay, I can just submit these transactions to these relayers and not worry about it. Now, let's see. The next question was swap efficiency. How does this make machine-to-machine payments better? Yeah, the third thing is that knockout liquidity specifically is really impressive from the perspective of being able to go and effectively interact with big swaps in a small pool, right? Previously it's not possible. If you wanted to swap 5 times the pool's liquidity, you're just completely out of luck. There's literally nothing you can do. But with knockout liquidity, you can go and place that position as liquidity in the pool. And not only are you helping facilitate your swap, but you're making the pool better. And this is really, makes a lot of interactions that would otherwise not be possible, and helps to, once again, facilitate the DEX getting out of the way of the machines wanting to do stuff, which is the most important part of all of this. Now, finally, I'm going to talk a little bit about decentralization, sort of get back on the rails from where I was going before we paused here. So the cool thing, so when we originally chose ambient DEX as the base for the iFi DEX code base, we originally intended to just propose to raise the maximum contract size limit on Althea L1, because we're like, okay, ambient has tons of cool features, it's really well made, it's awesome. But the contract size limit is a pain. And in fact, it really impacts the decentralization of these swaps, right? Because ambient was so packed with all these features, they didn't have room for events. So that means that in order to interact with it, compute what a swap should be, even see what the pool price currently was, you would have to use sort of the graph protocol to manually inspect transactions. And I think the manually inspect transactions modifying the pool history. And I think the equivalent is, let's say that you wanted to make a billboard or like a screen showing what floor an elevator was on. You could have the elevator tell you what floor it was on at any given time. That would be an event. Or you can go and take apart the elevator circuit board and figure out what bit flips on the circuit board when the elevator hits a certain floor. That is how the current upstream version of ambient gets all of its backend information, because there was no room for events inside the contract. So what we have done is that we have added events to the ambient contract and built a backend that uses those events that's roughly 100,000 times faster to sync and much faster to perform queries and perform operations. And this means that it's possible for a independent router to come in and make a swap without even needing a specialized backend to query for information. Because the even small embedded devices can process enough events to do what they need to do and provide more front-end like features without having to depend on a fully synced subgraph that has inspected all the transactions. And the reason that's, just to put into perspective how onerous that is, I go into this in the blog post, is that you need a full Ethereum archive node, which is going to take you 6 days to sync at least, even with good hardware. And then once you have that, the subgraph itself needs to sync at a rate that is typically slower than a block per second. So if you want to sync 3 years of history, you could be looking at 3 weeks, 4 weeks all told, before you have enough data to run a full ambient backend, if an ambient deployment is a few years old. But with the new iFi DEX implementation, in which we've added events to the contract and built a backend that interprets them, that same syncing process would take under an hour. I mean, generally, it depends on how much you want to pay for hardware, but if you're using the same hardware that you would put the graph node on, 30 minutes, something like that. And you don't even need an archive node. So you can do a normal ETH node sync in the span of a couple of hours. So this is a huge improvement for decentralization. And this is one of the key innovations that we've done with the iFi DEX. So a lot of what I'm pitching, the end user features, all of this are all in upstream ambient. What we have really come in to do the work on is to make them easier to use and more accessible and accessible in a decentralized way for machine-to-machine devices. Now, this is where we get kind of the funny part, is that we originally had planned to just increase the maximum contract size on Althea L1 to facilitate this. But what we found that was interesting was that in the couple of years since Ambient was originally released, if you go and tweak the Solidity compiler settings sufficiently and upgrade to the new version of the Solidity compiler, enable via IR support, tweak the runs a little bit, you can get the compiler to take the same ambient code and make it 2 kilobytes smaller, which opens up all the room you need, not only for events, but also for incentives. Now, incentives, the last thing I want to talk about here is that we're doing a pretty unique, for the iFi DEX, we're doing a pretty unique split incentives design. And what I mean by that is that we're not building incentives directly into the iFi DEX contract. Instead, we're building endpoints that expose enough information for incentives to any external contract. And then anyone can deploy a external incentives contract separately. What this does is that it improves security because the DEX itself has less complexity, less functions to update or change or need to upgrade. And it also provides a lot of flexibility where the community can try out many different incentive strategies and do so in parallel permissionlessly without having to upgrade the main DEX. And what we see this is really useful for is providing incentives on ambient liquidity. Because ambient liquidity, Uniswap v2 style liquidity, just doesn't accrue that much in fees, but it is very useful to the pools when swaps exit the range of concentrated liquidity positions. Oh, okay. Wow, that was quite the filibuster. Any more thoughts or questions?
Well, folks are thinking about their thoughts and questions. I know Shalabi also has a demo for y'all that we wanted to share with you today. So I will let him cue that up. And feel free to just drop your questions into the chat or Discord. We're happy to answer those for you if you're in YouTube or Twitter. We also, if you have not yet joined us in our Discord chat, our community is there, as well as we have a forum at althea.net, docs, and the docs site is docs.althea.net. All right, Shalabi, I heard some rumblings over there. Are you ready to share with us this?
I just shared my screen. Can you guys see that all right?
Nope.
I think you have to pull it into the presentation, Deb.
Let me check this out, guys.
So anyways, while she's working on that, yeah, the overall changes that we're making, I am really excited about the efficiency for making machine transactions easier and also for the classical experience. So what we're showing right now is the swap page for the usual, you bridge to the chain and you do a swap sort of experience. But like I was talking about, most of these features are designed to facilitate a better experience for machine-to-machine payments. Well, and also increased efficiency on those swaps as we sort out, as we have, sort of a single pool doing more stuff. Now, let me see. I'm going to take a look at some of the comments and such.
Perfect. Hey, TP and Connect. Thanks for joining us. We got to give Shalabi more permissions here, y'all. So 1 second. Sorry, y'all.
So yeah, the one thing that I didn't really spend a lot of time talking about is the governance integration. So in order to be the native, in order to be the canonical native DEX for Althea L1, um, we've built governance integrations for the iFi DEX into Althea L1's Cosmos SDK governance module, so they can go and so that when you propose like, hey, I want to create a new pool template, or I'd like to define this new pool or change the fees, these proposals are not inscrutable bunches of EVM bytecode. They are instead first-class proposal types that with a nice field that says you put the new fee here to make it easier for people who want to participate in governance to come along and make a change and say, hey, I want to change the fee for this pool type. And they can do that, submit it as a proposal. And the proposal code itself actually compiles it down to the EVM bytecode and executes it. And this really follows the principles we think about when designing Althea L1 governance. So it should be possible for anyone to participate and make a change. And anything that makes it more obscure or difficult to facilitate that change is something we should try and smooth.
All right, looks like we are live. So I am seeing everything I need to see. Justin, any comments here for Shalabi? It looks like we are live.
Yeah, we're all good. So I'll go ahead and hand it back over to Joseph.
Cool.
All right.
Thanks, Justin. Thanks, Deb. So a little bit about what Justin was talking was the iFi DEX, which we have built in testnet here. One of the more important things he was referring to were gasless transactions, assisting people with making swap transactions and even machines, right? Making swap transactions that don't necessarily have the Althea token to pay gas balances. And that's something that we've integrated in our backend. It's utilizing the same functionality that Ambient provides for people to swap on cold paths and long paths. Basically, you just sign a transaction and it gets submitted to the backend, which then processes that transaction in order and pays the fee for you. Now, you do have to tip this relayer. They only process transactions that are profitable. But I mean, the fees incurred are so small that it basically goes through instantly. And there's a functionality in the Ambient DEX that allows you to deposit your tokens into the DEX using your wallet. So your wallet is represented on the DEX. They're called surplus balances, and that's kind of what makes this happen. It's a pretty interesting and neat feature. And we also have the liquidity pools for Ambient concentrated liquidity up and running on testnet, coming to mainnet soon, TM.
Q5. So Shalabi, you mentioned this relayer. Who's participating in being the relayers on Althea? How does that work, or on that side of things, just from back end side?
Yes, so that's really neat. Basically, what we're doing is we're packaging the relayer into a form that anybody who has Althea to fund the relayer can run. So you download it like you would kind of a validator binary. So if you're in the ecosystem and you're already running software on Althea, like whether you're a IBC relayer, whether you're a validator, whether you're doing Block Explorer stuff, it kind of just pans in well to the stack that you're already running. And so, yeah, anybody can be a relayer, and we hope to have many in the ecosystem. They all feed off of the same endpoint that users submit their transactions to. So there's kind of this queue where the user submits their transaction and the relayers will be able to scan for profitability. And depending on how you set your metrics, right, you can pick up an ETX or you can pick up TXs with bigger fees, or if you want to be a cool guy, you can pick up TXs with smaller fees. We're kind of building it so it's flexible and offering a use case for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to do a quick flag, and I so much appreciate building alongside y'all and the focus on, creating, products for machines, but in a way that allows that open architecture and participation into the infrastructure. That's really the decentralization and the resilience that I think many of us here came to build. And so it's exciting. I mean, many people along this journey have sort of abandoned those first principles. And I think one of the remarkable things about everyone building around Althea is the practicality and, building practical resilience into an open architecture into every sort of piece of how the operation runs and building real agency into that. So it's exciting. I'm excited about it. Cool to see it in action.
It's a pleasure building along people, who know what to do. And this is the fruit of, Justin, Christian, and I's labor. So it's always nice to show it off.
Absolutely. All right, liquidity fusion in action there, y'all.
Excellent.
Bells and whistles in that particular, in the iFi DEX. But really, I think just to kind of wrap things up too, we sort of wanted to do this community call as short and sweet, let y'all know a little bit about what the team's been working on, and how that's all coming together to be performant for the emerging machine economy, and how that all kind of end to end comes together. So super excited about that. Justin, I don't know if you'd like to share any kind of parting thoughts, or Shalabi, and things we should think about here in the coming week. We have another community call next week too. We're going to have a special guest from the Alice team join us, and just kind of talking about the ecosystem in general.
Yeah, so I gave a big overview of all the features here, but you can see a lot more detail on the blog, in which pretty much everything I talked about. So the original design has a blog post. Then there's going to be one on governance, gasless, and come on, what's the third one? Anyways, I have yet another blog post if you're patient enough to wait for it. So those will be coming out, sort of one a week. So keep an eye on the blog, especially if you're interested in more details and links and sort of more stuff to dig into.
Super exciting. I mean, it's just really great and exciting to see kind of everything come together and really be driven by the use case and the users on the machine side and utility side, and very cool. All right, well, thanks everyone for being here. We had a great crowd of folks across multiple kind of ecosystems of social media. Thank you so much for being here. And if you do have a chance, please do join us in our Discord, and lots of ways to jump in and participate. And look forward to seeing y'all next week. Thanks so much.